So, hi everyone, welcome back to the Nostalgic Dragon, where I talk about fantasy, mythology, and sometimes sci fi storytelling. Mostly books, but sometimes video games and sometimes board games as well. Stories can be told in many ways, but today, a wrap up of what I've read 2025 so far. There are a few days left on the year. And I will just jump right into it. And those of you who follow my channel, you know about the fantasy and sci-fi stuff that I read. So I will start in a different order just to surprise you a bit. But if you are here for the science fiction and the fantasy and the mythology, etc., I will come very soon to that. But I will just start to show you a few books I read and finished this here by Albert Camus. People say in English Albert Camus. I think that's the correct French pronunciation. This is The Stranger, the Swedish version. This is The Fall. And then we have The Myth of Sisyphus. All these three I read this year. This is The Myth of Sisyphus. This is The Stranger, and this is The Fall. All these three basically sums up the philosophies of Albert Camus, and um, I'm not an expert on Camus. Maybe I am after reading three books, but basically he has a distanced perspective to life. Some of the famous theory that he's brought into philosophy is called absurdism. And I think you can find that mostly in the myth of Sisyphus, but also in the other two. Basically, that life is absurd. The myth of Sisyphus originates from a Greek myth about this Sisyphus who was rolling a boulder up the hill and then it went down. He went down to push it up again. He did it. He found meaning in that, basically. And many of his stories has to do about what is meaning of life, and the idea with absurdism is that there is no inherent meaning of life. We decide our own meaning, and that is in itself a very happy conclusion and maybe a solution to many things if you think that, because it means you choose for yourself basically what you like in within reasonable limits, from my point of view. You can find joy and peace. So that's one way of putting it, at least. The Stranger is about a person who's called Marceau, and he's strangely, or he's accused for murder on the beach. Actually, there is a The Cure song that is inspired by this. But he doesn't really understand that he is accused. He doesn't understand the situation he's in, and he just sees everything from afar as a stranger, so to speak. That's why the book is called The Stranger. In the myth of Sisyphus, we get a lot of examples of people who has basically lived their lives on their own terms and enjoy that. Interesting, I would say. Don Quixote is one of them. And then we have The Fall, about a very successful lawyer who is in Amsterdam, and basically he looks back at his life, and as I understand it, it's that he initially thought he was very successful and he had a great ego and so on, but as he lives his life, he uh, basically deconstructs that notion of being successful, being, someone important, someone with a big ego. So it's a kind of existential fall, I suppose. So these are three books by Albert Camus that I've read and that I really enjoyed, and that has helped me a bit to understand a few things in life as well. As many of you know, I'm well versed in many spiritual theories and literature, mostly Lutheran Christianity, Christian Lutheranism, maybe you say, and actually Zen Buddhism as well. I know a lot about, and Hinduism. So and with that, you could say some of other kind of Buddhism as well. But I think Albert Camus gave me some new perspectives that was very helpful for me during my spring, which was a bit intense for me, like it can be when you are working and you are having family and you do a lot of other things that you like. So I recommend Camus. Um, because maybe that's an interesting thing for us who like fantasy and I like mythology and science fiction and other stuff. We do what we like, we find meaning in that, so there is some kind of connection here, I would say. Another book that has to do with philosophy is the Burnout Society. That's by Byung-Chul Han, a German South Korean philosopher. Basically, this is about the culture today in society, which is focuses on results and that we have to produce a lot. And that kind of culture, because when we produce a lot, the reward that we get, because this is about work life and maybe other part about success, like I would say in our culture today, that is global nowadays. If you are successful, the reward you get is more work, for example. So basically, that leads to burnout. And the idea here is that the society nowadays is not like in old times, in 1700s, 1800s, 1900s, early or maybe mid 1900s, that the boss tells you what to do. You have the ownership of what you are doing as an employee, and you both perform the work assignments, but you also put a lot of pressure on yourself. Um, Basically, you are doing the work assignments, but you're also leading yourself, so to speak, which in the worst case can lead to burnout. If it does, it's a healthy thing because then you have discovered it and you can do something about it. So that was four books that are very different from what I used to talk about on the channel. Actually, I forgot one other book, Swedish book, where the links appear. That's a feel good book with a fantasy inspiration. I will put that in the link below later. But coming back to the usual stuff that you know about, I finished the Book of the New Sun, Gene Wolfe. And that is something I'm really happy to have read. It's thanks to you here in the community. You have encouraged me to read a book. I've read the first book, Shadow of the Torture. I was supposed to record with Jay on the Contemplative Reader. Last Sunday I was sick. Now I'm back, Jay. So I'm looking forward to contact you very soon to find a new date to discuss the first book. I'm also started to read The Claw of the Conciliator. That's the second book. But if it goes to talk about books I finished, it's the first book in the Book of the New Sun, philosophical, spiritual, science fiction, a lot of fantasy, I would say, about identity, about meaning of life. We follow Severian, an expelled torturer from his guild, expelled out in to a world which is very new to him, where he tries to understand things. I think this book has a lot of Alice in Wonderland themes, basically, because it's a bit confusing to know where he is and what he's doing and why he's doing things. There's a lot of symbolism. It's very layered. Actually, someone related this book to Ericksonian, the Malazan Book of the Fallen author, Stephen Erickson, writing. I'm not so sure about that because this is very, he writes not so many pages, but it's very layered. So maybe that's the thing. And maybe there is a connection more than I know because I have to read more in the books. But basically, those who have recommended me this book has not read Malazan Book of the Fallen. So let's see if there is a connection or not. So I finished that one. I'm happy for that, and I will continue to read the other books in 2026. I also have a Witcher project, as some of you know, and maybe I can squeeze in the Times of Contempt, the second book in the Witcher saga. But let's keep it at this. I've read the short story collection. This is Sword of Destiny, like this, Sword of Destiny. I've read the Blood of Elves. Let's see. No, sorry. I read The Last Wish. So these two are short novels, short stories, collections, short novels. So this one and this one. And then I read The Blood of Elves, which is the first book in the Witcher saga. I'm reading the Times of Contempt. The Time of Contempt. At the moment, I will probably finish this one before the year ends. So if that would be the case, that would be 4 Witcher books in 1 year. I'm happy for that. I really enjoy the Witcher books. Actually, it's now first in the end of the Times of Contempt, that I've gotten used to Andrei Sapkowski's writing when he writes, when he doesn't write short stories, because I think his short stories are brilliant in many ways, and his kind of writing, which is very theatrical in many ways, very folklore inspired by Eastern folklore, but also, as I understand it now, also from Irish and German, or Germanic, you should say. His style suits well for short stories. He's a fast-paced writer. He can write very layered, but he also writes with a lot of humor and a lot of perspectives of the era, the time that everything is happening. He also uses magic in an interesting way, because magic is not so common in the Witcher world. There are witchers then, of course, and sorcerers who can use magic in different ways, but the common folk, they can't use magic. They can't read. They are also very, very poor, and it's the Witcher world is a very terrible place to be in. It's very depressive. If you want to look at it, please look at the Witcher 3 video game, for example. It's a lot of poverty and a lot of disease, a lot of plague, and so on. But you have these people who have this spiritual power. Almost like, I think, like one spiritual power in Witcher series is actually that people can read. I realized that today when I was reading in Times of Contempt, that reading actually basically seems to be magic. And I think that was how it was perceived ages ago as well, when we translate that into things like scrolls, for example, magical scrolls. I will continue my Witcher journey 2026 for sure. Both the video game, where I've done the first act, but I've played a lot of hours, I think 50 hours for Act 1, so I will continue into Act 2. I have also the board game over here, which you can find on the channel, a few videos about. And it's not a legacy game, it's not a campaign game, so you only play it once and then you're done with it. In a way, that's very good. But maybe I will play it for sure here at home, but I will highlight it a few times on the channel during 2026 as well. When it comes to board games and storytelling, maybe these licensed games, apart from Elder Scrolls Betrayal, which I played a lot, they are maybe not the best. I've just bought Mage Knight, a wonderful game, very difficult. Solo game, looks like this, which has no story, no lore, basically, and it's really a treat for your brain, depending on what you want to do. If you want your brain to work a lot, then Mage Knight is great. So these themed board games like The Witcher, maybe not the best. Um, yeah, continuing to more secure um, places in my reading brain, at least. I finished Midnight Tides, reread. Malazan Book of the Fallen. Um, a lot of humor in this book, a lot of philosophy, but this is more political. Maybe it's a lot about capitalism, I would say, and economy, and it's also very hilarious because you read about Tehal and Bug here. I recommend this a lot, and there is a lot of lore here that you can discover. So this was the second time for me reading this book. Learned a lot more about Malazan lore. Will continue my rereading. I have had, as you noticed, a little bit of Malazan break, basically because of you, in a good way, because Witcher was also an advice from many of you here on the channel. So I try to read things that you want me to read. I also finished House of Chains this year. Also reread. Cars Hour long. You don't need to say more. Maybe one of the most obvious books in the Malazan Book of the Fallen about civilization, what that is, and what the opposite is. And as always, civilization versus tribalism basically is one of Erickson's major themes in his books. He explores that in a great way, I think. Just to break things off a bit, I finished the Demon in White, Sun Eater, about Hadrian Marlowe. From the nobility, we know everything will end in catastrophe. He will have exterminated a whole race, and everyone hates him. Basically, he's writing his own account. How that did happen. He wanted to leave his home planet to become something called a scholiast, a learned man. That did not happen. He seems to become part of basically nobility, but not in the way that he thought. He had the big conviction in the first book to make war between this alien race, Sealsin, and the Empire. Sealsin is an evil race, or depicted as an evil race in the Sun Eater series, and he took the role as a keeper of peace, a diplomat, basically. I don't want to spoil too much about that. That is one of the premises of the book, that he goes on this big journey to make peace. But we don't know. Everything will end in disaster. It seems like in the end. We don't know. We don't know if he's written this account, even if it says so that he has written it. I really like the book, or the books, because they have a lot of sci-fi entertainment feel. That's new to me. I don't read this kind of literature so much. Still, it has depth, and the depth is that it relates to especially the Western civilization, the Roman and Greek civilization, in subtle ways. So we understand that this is not a galaxy, as Rocchio said here when he was interviewed on channel, far, far away. This is a galaxy quite near us, at least our mindset and our mental pictures. It's about the Colosseum, it's about different gods, it's about painters we know about. There are military terms, of course, from mostly the Roman Empire, but also the Greek civilization, gods, etc. So maybe not as deep as, let's say, Erickson or anything like that, but still, I think it's very ambitious. I think it's good. It's about a personal journey for main character Hadrian Marlowe, and I think we can mirror our own journey and his journey a lot if we want to do that, and we can learn a lot from that. So, and I think Christoph Rocchio is a great writer, great prose. That goes for all the books I've shown so far. Great prose. And the last book is the Stonewielder Ian C. Esselmont. I'm a bit sure if I finished the Return of the Crimson Guard this year. Maybe I did that in January. I have it here, so this is I might be wrong. But as you know, I never have the TBR list. I don't count books in that way, but I think this became 13 or 14 books, depending on how you count. So for me, that's okay. I could have read 3 books during 1 year and be totally happy with that. I've also been focusing, as I said, on gaming. Also telling you about that on the channel, and it's mostly 2 games, and that is the Witcher 3 game and also the Pillars of Eternity, which I'm going to make a video about together with Rick, who's been guest here on the channel a few times. We're going to do a Pillars of Eternity video in the beginning of next year, so I'm looking forward to that. That's one of the greatest Malazan-esque CRPGs out there. So if you haven't looked that game up, do that, because it's great. It's great writing and it's a great game. Witcher 3, I think, is a great game in so many ways. It's huge though, and since you know I'm a bit slow, it will take me some time to finish that game. But to experience the world, Witcher world, especially now when I'm reading the books, is very, very entertaining, fascinating, and also uh, emotional in the way that the surroundings, as I said earlier, is very poor. People are poor, poverty, there are plague. Uh, this is not civilization, so to speak, big cities, it's small villages you visit and so on. And a lot of superstition that people have and the hope they have for magic, that sorcerers and also witches can help them. Um, and also the characterization of the Witcher, the Geralt of Rivia, is really interesting if you compare that with the books and with the uh, video game. So actually, there's not so much about Geralt in the books so far. I mean, there is of course one of the main characters, but he's one of the main characters in the video game. Geralt, you are Geralt, so he's basically the main character. So that's interesting. So Pillars, as I said, board games. I showed you Mage Knight, which is very new. It's just a few days old. I'm playing it here behind me. And Elder Scrolls Betrayal, the board game, which I've been enjoying a lot. And actually, I haven't been playing the, like say, Skyrim so much. I finished Oblivion many years ago, but I'm playing the board game, and I have also read a lot of lore books this year, and that is mostly um, Elder Scrolls lore and also Pillars lore, but that's on the internet. You find that, but then some Pathfinder lore as well. Pathfinder is a video game too by Owlcat Games, and it's also a great game if you haven't checked that out. So I'm curious about how pantheons are made, how world building is done, how immersion is made in all these 3 formats that we speak about here, right? With books, video games, and board games. So because everything is stories. So we've heard stories since the dawn of humanity and from the beginning. I don't know, but I suppose no one did read or write. So we told the stories over the campfire, so to speak. So from that perspective, storytelling becomes very, very interesting. And when it comes to mythology and fantasy and all these things, it seems to be very interesting for humans since the first humans stepped on Earth, walked on Earth. We need stories. So that's interesting in itself. So that was a wrap up for me and my reading and what I've done 2025. I've also been listening to you, all the comments you have given me on the channel. Some of you have got to know, and I'm very happy for that. You know who you are, both viewers but also booktubers. So I'm very happy to have talked to a contemplative reader this year. I talked a few times with David from Four Corners of the Page, and also with Nikhil at the Shelf System, for example, and also with I Samwise. That's a book I forgot that I have read. That's the Lesser Devil. Actually, we had a recording about Lesser Devil with I Samwise. So very happy for all of you who has joined my channel and talked about books mostly, but also video games, right? So we talked about video games too. So many of these things will reoccur during 2026, but you can of course write in the comments below if you want me to focus on something very specific or something special. There is also a poll on the community page where you can vote what you want me to do in 2026. And I'm not done with videos for this year, so I will try to put up a video tomorrow. So until then, have a really nice day. I hope you enjoy this video and see you very soon. Bye.